Hello, guys, and welcome to the Mad Over Videos podcast. This is episode 31. Today's guest is Amy Kelly from UserTesting. Amy is a marketing creative professional who's worked on both sides, that is, the agency side and the brand side. She's had over 10 years of experience and she's worked with some of the best agencies and brands like ITV, YouTube, Facebook, and today she heads the EMEA marketing efforts as the director of marketing for user testing. So we are really happy to have her on the podcast today. So without much ado, I'd like to add Amy to the podcast. So please welcome Amy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Pranav?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining us on the podcast. I know it's an odd time where you're based. So you're in Scotland right now. How's the weather there?
It's okay. It's been raining today for a bit of a change, but yeah, no, it's all's fine. We're staying. We're still in lockdown, but it's we're surviving.
I understand. In fact, we were just talking about how we got connected, and we're in fact very privileged to have you on today's podcast. Uh, like we started Mado Videos as an offline conference. It would have been very difficult to get hold of someone like you, but today we're just connected through our mobile phones and this internet, and we're able to do the same conversation that we would have possibly been doing on stage.
I know that's the power of video, isn't it? It's able to bring us
Absolutely.
opposite sides of the world.
Absolutely. Which brings me to my first question, Amy. Why is Amy mad over videos?
I think that no one could say that there's not that incredible, powerful element of videos. And I think as a marketer, it's one of the most exciting parts of a campaign is when you're building something that is even more so creative and also can engage emotion. Something I truly believe that if you're able to make people feel something and then they will remember you even more so. And I think with that, it just helps to give that extra level of interest and engagement that you would get from your audience. So I have used video in my marketing campaign since the start, since the start of my career in different ways across different channels. But I think it's an incredibly powerful medium, and I don't think that is anything that we're ever going to lose anytime soon.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why we are also mad over videos at Guch. Like we work with a bunch of videos with a bunch of brands. We've been doing this for a long time, and like there's no end to the excitement when we work on a new video, when we like help a client achieve a business outcome with a piece of creative that we make. It's beautiful. But yeah, I think I would like to, before we go on to discussing some of the campaigns that you worked on, I would like to know a little bit more about your journey. Amy, please tell me what has the journey been before user testing, right? What all things have you done? And we can talk a little bit in detail about each of your roles. But if you could give me a brief overview of your journey.
Of course, yes. So I graduated from Glasgow University, and then my career started just after that when I moved to New York City, and I did a marketing role at an agency there, and that's what kicked off my agency experience. Then after a year in New York, I moved to London, and I worked for publicist agencies. So I started off in the sustainability world, and then moved to PR, and had that very much creative experience of working alongside designers and strategists and PR professionals that would just go, the extra mile for creativity and coming up with ideas for clients. And I was helping market those agencies, so it was a very B2B role. The majority of my experiences have been within B2B marketing, but so from that I then entered the contract world, which I had always been a bit nervous of getting into freelance and things, but it just opened up so much opportunity for me. and I ended up working for some fantastic brands. I did contract roles at ITV and YouTube and Facebook, and then was very, very lucky to get a role with UserTesting, and that actually brought me back up to my homeland of Scotland. So I moved back up to Edinburgh, where our EMEA HQ is based. So yeah, so it's been a bit of a wild journey. London years were just gave you that bit of extra thick skin, but it was an amazing experience, and just really happy now to be leading the team at UserTesting in EMEA for the marketing efforts that we're doing here.
Yeah. So I think because you've seen both sides of the world, I think I mean it's very obvious that these two roles, whether you're on the agency side or the brand side, they're two very, very different worlds. The way you think, the way you do things, everything is so different. What has been that transition like? I mean, you started with the agency world, got a good experience of working for brands, sitting on the other side of the table. A lot of times you're pitching ideas, you're sort of there, you're facing a lot of rejection. You sometimes also maybe like cutting down on a lot of good things just because the person on the other side wants you to. And then when you see that you're on the other side of the table, what is that feeling like, where you possibly also empathize with the person who's come to pitch to you now with an idea? And then how's that transition been like? What are the both worlds like for you?
I think going from the agency world to the brand side was incredibly beneficial, just because you do understand a lot more what goes on behind the scenes. So you can see, obviously, working directly with agencies, you have that empathy, you have that understanding, and can perhaps have that little bit extra patience. But I noticed the difference of, working on the brand and the agency side. We were so fast, we were working at the speed of light to get things done for clients, and then we were also working crazy hours, and it was sort of no end date in time. It was very, very busy, and I think that it was a bit of a culture shock when I went to ITV and things were just a lot slower paced, that you could spend a lot more time on one campaign, which was like a gift, thinking of, I can spend the time actually thinking about this in a lot more detail. So it was definitely a change of pace, going over to the brand side. Now that I'm at UserTesting, we are more startup style, so this is preferable for me to be working at a faster pace, and just that level of like getting things out there, the output, and just the amount of work that you want to be able to deliver for the company. So I think that now I'm back into the kind of startup world that is where I prefer to be, when you're just busy, getting a lot of things done fast.
Absolutely. Also, I think I would like to talk about the fact that when you're working on the agency side, you're possibly also thinking for different brands at the same time, right? You're possibly pitching to 4 or 5 brands. You're thinking on their behalf. You're trying to understand a lot about what the brand stand for, what is their tone, etc. But when you're working on the brand side, or you're on the brand side, it's just one brand that you really look at. So you sort of also ease up on some of those aspects that you already know of, and possibly you don't have to spend a lot of time there. But there's that amount of excitement that I'm going to be doing a lot more things, a lot more different things, rather, when I'm working for more brands rather than one. Because like you said, you spend a lot of time on one campaign. You're possibly looking at the campaign from the ideation phase to the execution phase, so it's far longer of a timeline as well.
In terms of when you're working on the brand side, it's just a bit of a longer. It's definitely. I think that when you're on the brand side, you've obviously got loads of internal campaigns. You're multi-channel marketing, whereas when you're on the agency side, you might be focused on one area. So I think it just depends on who you work for. What kind of experience that is. For me, now at UserTesting, there's multi-channel marketing. There's a lot of other things going on, and we work with agencies to help us in specific areas, and those are the parts where we can really dig deep into a topic, into subject matter with the agency. But then again, you go back, you close the doors, and you've got loads of other events and webinars and content to write, and there's a lot more kind of going on behind the scenes as well.
Absolutely, and I think being on the like being in middle of so much that happens around you, the chaos or the number of iterations that happen between you and the agency or a freelancer that's working with the brand, etc. It becomes very difficult to sort of communicate and things like, because the agency, as you said, very agile. Because you're working with people, like all sorts of people. You have the designers, you have the script writers, you have the editors, everybody right in the same room. Whereas when you're working with the brand, you're possibly working with multiple agencies, and especially if you're pulling off a multinational campaign, you're possibly working with multiple agencies or multiple teams across the globe. It becomes very difficult to sort of even pass on feedback, etc., and becomes very difficult to sort of put this all together, right?
Do you mean when you're sort of spread thin across multiple agencies?
Yes, because I think a lot of people like take up different types of work with the brand, so it becomes very difficult to sort of get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're working with and how many agencies perhaps you're working with. You know, we at the moment we work with one agency. We work with Batten Hall, our PR agency in EMEA, and for them, they're our central partner across all of PR. And then we have different agencies that we work with, perhaps for your SCM and your digital marketing and those things. So I think that at the moment it doesn't feel that way to me. And I think that because we're perhaps of a okay size, that we're not too big yet, and we can still manage that. But the beautiful thing that I remember from my time at Facebook was our PR agency. It was Hotwire, where a central partner that they actually could tell us what was happening in the global team over to the EMEA team at Facebook. So that was always quite nice, because you could just ask them, what have you heard from across the pond? What have you heard from, what's happening in global? And that was always interesting, just how much information they had. So I think if you get a really strong and connected agency who's always on top of it, and they're really good at acting more than just an agency, but as a partner within your organization, and they can help centralize a lot of those things, and can be just a great feed for information.
Absolutely. With that said, I'd like to like, get into like, checking out some of the campaigns that you worked on at various roles, and then let's start off immediately, because I don't think so. There's so many things that I want to talk about, and I think I always feel that I have very little time with the guest, so I think I like to just jump onto it right away. So the first thing I want to point out is how testing as a brand has so much belief in the medium of video, that they've done some amazing work, whether it be a commercial, whether it is a web series of webinars, or if there are like you've produced amazing customer case studies, a lot of that, right? I mean, typically a lot of brands, especially in their early stage, they don't take the liberty to try out so many different things in video. The most tried and tested like medium of marketing, they use PPC, they use SEO, SEM, and things like that. But when it comes to video as a medium, they're sort of like not so confident, or sometimes they are not bullish, I would say. But I've seen user testing being so bullish about videos, and I have some amazing videos lined up in our conversation to discuss about. So I'd like to start with the first video, that is the user testing commercial. Again, such a wacky, such a quirky video that was done for user testing. So I'd play the video, and then maybe we can get to discussing a little bit about it.
Great.
What do you think about our new tagline?
Have you checked that on Urban Dictionary?
That's descriptive.
Understand it from your customer's perspective with user testing.
I love that advert. So this is what our corporate marketing team worked with an agency in the US. So it was, with the whole lockdown pandemic happening, a strategy for this year and for last year was really to up the game on outdoor advertising and how we would advertise at airports and all those places that people would be traveling all the time. But we have an incredible VP of corporate marketing, Paige Musto, who worked really closely with the team to identify just a different way for us to create, something from further brand awareness. And these ads where there's multiple different versions. So I love this one just because it was hilarious, just because it's really understanding of having that wider awareness of your customers and what they're experiencing, but then also maybe just some of the cultural funny things that happen in life. And this was just great because they were actually measuring of how many times Lobster Surprise was actually searched for an Urban Dictionary as well, which was great. So it's just about creating those videos that talk a little bit about what the human insight part of user testing is, and raising awareness in a fun way. And I think that it's touched on what we said before of creating emotion is amazing, because when you create that emotion of something as simple as making someone laugh, that is going to go into their memory box. They're going to think about that. They're going to remember you and perhaps recall that again. And I think that's where the power of video comes into the play. So that was our a few different variations that are on YouTube, and you can find them on the user testing YouTube for to see all of the different variations that we tried to see, see it from your customer's point of view in different scenarios. So it's a great way for us to have our first ads, launched to the world. But that was something that our global team was working on.
Absolutely, but I'd like to congratulate you guys on sort of pushing the boundaries, because traditionally B2B companies or B2B brands are very like unsure of whether they should try the humor route, right? They want to position themselves as somebody who comes off as serious because of the fact that, okay, my customers might not take me seriously, right? I mean, we sort of serve businesses, and we have to sort of behave in a certain way rather. I mean, this is a notion that is built up in the leadership, and typically most ideas which are quirky, which could possibly get you more returns, or rather more eyeballs, get shot down just because people do not believe in them.
I think we're a fun company, and I think we work with brilliant people. We have great customers, and it's all just part of the enjoyment, isn't it? So if you're going to create fun ads and they get taken badly for any reason by someone, it's you're never going to please everybody. But ultimately, it's touching on the whole emotional part of it. It's great to make people laugh, and it's great to make people feel some sort of emotion, like missing something, or just anything that's not just nothing. If no one's having any resonation with your video and they feel nothing, they're not going to remember you. So yeah, you've got to push the boundaries out sometimes, and you've got to be creative, and a lot of that is just having some fun. And it's not very typical for B2B perhaps, but maybe adverts like that aren't very typical, but that's when you've got to think outside the box, don't you? You have to think what is fresh and what's going to grab people's attention. Also, in the world of digital, what could perhaps go viral? What sort of elements could make people want to share this? And that's when you've got to really put on your creative mind and think about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to take one of the points that you mentioned, and as use it as a segue into the next campaign, is the point of touching on emotions. Right, we spoke about humor in the first campaign, the commercial that we just played, but also about generating a sense of belonging, a sense of relatability with your customers. Again, this next video that we want to play is something that you all worked on with your partner Skyscanner. Again, Skyscanner, for everybody who knows or would those who are living under a rock, is possibly one of the largest OTA travel related brands worldwide, and possibly the go-to place where most people go in order to find flights. So I think one of the biggest industry which got shut down or got affected after the pandemic was the travel industry. And I've seen a lot of brands that we worked with in the past as well, and having uh, suffered so badly because of the pandemic, because everybody had lost confidence in whether they will ever get to travel. So like it is very important sort of instill that confidence back in those people, and no better thing than a video that can touch the user's emotion, right? So I'd like to play this video, and then maybe you can tell me more about the ideology and what went behind making this. So before that, shall we play the video?
Yeah, but just to flag, I didn't. User testing wasn't involved in making this video, so this was an example of a video that I find personally just really fantastic for hitting that emotion. And Skyscanner are one of our clients, but to be very clear, we didn't help them make this. You know, they did test.
Absolutely. I'm sure I might have put it in the wrong way, but then this is something that even I've watched and I felt it was so beautiful, it was so effective that we had to like bring this into our conversation. So I'll let play the video, and then maybe you can tell me your perspective on it. Yeah. So it that last one line that we will be still here for you is so powerful, right? Just so reassuring for the customers to say that okay, we are going to get through all this and we'll still be here for you guys. That is a beautiful way to like put across your brand message.
I think this was just a fantastic example of marketing in this situation that we're all in, because I think that something that resonated with me as a consumer, you know, during 2020 was just how much I was marketed to. So there was so much marketing flinging my way, you know, so many advertising, so many emails, and eventually everything was sort of fuzzy and connected together. And then, you know, our customer Skyscanner put this out to the world as a bit of inspiration, a bit of positivity to think of, we will get through this and we will be back together and we will travel again. And it's, even when I watch it now, you know, I can still feel like I'm going to cry because, you know, we're still not able to travel and we're still hoping that that day is going to come. And it just resonates with you so much. You get that feeling in your stomach. It's an amazing cinematography, and to think it's, you know, for ads, it's just fantastic because it's been watched a lot on YouTube. It's been watched a lot, you know, across digital channels, and I think that it's because people really see themselves in those images. And I think if you're able to put your customers in the picture and you're putting your customers in the video themselves, that's when it's really going to resonate with people, and they're going to, again, feel that emotion and feel more connected with your brand. And yeah, I just think that's an amazing example of a top-notch video. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I've always loved the idea of putting real people and real stories in videos rather than them being portrayed by big celebrities or actors, because again, you have to do so much more to ensure that people believe in that story, etc. But then that make believe part is no longer needed when you put real people, real stories. The emotions just flow, and you can absolutely connect with that person, and you can see yourself in the video in a way. So that is something that is beautiful, and very few brands do this beautifully. I've seen some brands do this really, really well, but I think there's so much that a lot of other brands can learn from videos like this.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's about, videos come into play across so many different channels and so many different activations, and that's an example of a high quality shot video. But you don't necessarily always, it's not always like the fundamental that everything has to be that high quality in something that's produced that way. But if you're going down that road of television advertising, obviously this will be a more effective solution for you. But sometimes you've also got to be quite scrappy, and it's maybe not going to be the exact same output. But I think it's whenever you can invest in something like that, it's obviously just going to up level your brand even more and hit people the right way.
Absolutely. Like you said, another thing which caught my attention is you were being marketed to a lot during the pandemic. I think everybody faced that fatigue, right? And there was the specific fatigue that I want to be talking about next is the webinar fatigue, because every marketer who couldn't now schedule a face-to-face meeting was trying to get their potential customers to watch a webinar. And it was basically a sales pitch disguised as a webinar. Again, the whole concept of webinar got, I don't know, somewhere lost in the whole translation of how conversations were made earlier. Webinars were always the place where you could create value for people, and it somehow got like sort of adulterated during the pandemic. And I mean, a very few brands out there did a very good job, and we've met a few such marketers who did ensure that they stayed true to the value proposition of a webinar, and continued to add value to the customers. And I'd like to know your thoughts about how you all like sort of went about your webinars, and what was the whole ideology, what was the whole discussion inside the team when pandemic hit.
Yeah, it was really coming into the start of 2020, and we were hitting March, April, and we had all these in-person events planned, and we were supposed to all be together and taking our customers out for exciting events. But obviously, all of that was stopped, and we had to think of other ways to engage our audience. So something we did was we had a lot of fantastic people lined up to speak at an event for us, and instead we just asked if they would come on a webinar series instead. So that started in April 2020, called the Espresso webinar series, and we're still running it now. And we ended up getting this amazing engagement from our community that was across research, design, UX, marketing, of people that were engaging in these weekly sort of very quick Thursday morning coffees. And that's all it was, is just getting different people, amazing folk. We had the head of user research, Ollie from Skyscanner, he came on. We had different brands from huge brands like Domino's and WhatsApp to smaller startup brands like Zappo and Small Improvements. We had 30 or so episodes in 2020, and it was a fantastic way for us to engage with our audience. And it was very scrappy and just trying to think of a way that's going to engage them but not exhaust them. As you said, it was just everyone was getting so many invitations to so many webinars, and so much was getting put out into the world. And I think this just became a very easy and nice thing to join on a Thursday morning, is to hear from incredible product leaders, to hear from research leaders, design leaders across multiple different European brands. And I think the simplicity of it and the face-to-face human element of it, it wasn't slides, it was just like this, like that human element that brings to a campaign is just so much more meaningful, and it just makes you feel like you're in the same room with people. And we all have Zoom fatigue, and we're all getting sick of the virtual events, but it seems to be just a way that we can still feel like we are catching up with people, and we're still in the same room with folk, but we're still also getting the education, and we're getting the thought leadership that we crave. If we can't go to massive events and get loads of content in the space of a day or two, or you go to massive trade shows and you're trying to find it in different ways, And I think user testing has always been very ahead of the curve with thought leadership. A lot of primary research, a lot of very relevant information for our design and research, UX and marketing community, and all of that, in terms of across webinars, it's just figuring out how people want to digest it. So having that live, then also having it on demand is such an effective way to keep the audience engaged. And it's something that we found in this Espresso webinar series has been great for the European community that we have here. And it's just been a really nice way to still feel that you're just catching up with someone for a coffee on Thursday morning and talking about the latest research and design practices and methodologies. And it's something I've really enjoyed and been able to meet a lot of really smart people.
Absolutely. I think this goes to my point that I made at the start of our conversation, that now I'm getting to talk to people like you sitting in my house here in India. Whereas when we started the whole Mad Over Videos movement, it started as this offline conference where we put brand owners in a room, physical room where we could get to shake hands and talk to each other in person. But this is the closest that we could get to people like y'all, because we could like sort of quickly jump on to the bandwagon of converting our property into a podcast, and we could do this on our mobile phones, right, or sitting in our own respective houses. With that said, I'd like to play the promo video of that webinar series. This is such an interesting webinar series. If you guys haven't seen this, we'd love for you to go check out the user testing blog. In fact, EMEA has written articles about the Espresso webinar series on the blog. So please do go check out that uh, series. But I like to play the promo for everybody. And like I mentioned, I also love the whole scrappy way of putting things together, because sometimes you really have to move fast and get things out in time, and this is the best way to do that. So I like to show the video to everybody right now.
This webinar like we're running right now was supposed to be in person. We just like had to refactor and repivot so that like, how do we have that richness, still get the results, still connect to the people in a meaningful way when we can't be there in person.
It would be really interesting to hear from you both on what you see being the biggest challenges for researchers right now.
A lot of researchers will be likely trying to figure out how to reframe and pivot from what their plans originally were.
If you think about the evolution of technology and like traditional sales where people all met in person and they had that handshake and it was very interpersonal relationships, and then technology came on and we talk less and we text more, and now we're like sort of jump started into way in the future for some folks where we're thinking about how do we still connect when we're not there in person.
Yeah, and some brilliant names in those videos as well. Like I'm sure like it took a lot of time to also curate the kind of people that appeared on the series.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, it's obviously trying to get people to engage and come and spend time and doing interviews. I know that can be difficult, and it's yeah, but I think that it's been a great way for them as well to still share content and having people across different functions. It's not being too specific, and we've been able to engage a lot of different disciplines and people across from startup to massive enterprise companies. And it's just by having that mix of brands. And I thought it was just a really great way that we had a consistent weekly engagement. And I think that it wouldn't have been the same if we had just been doing it, with slides or over, video, over just voice. I think we were really great to have it all recorded, because I think that also another way of now with marketing, if you are doing a lot of webinars, the great thing about these things is once they're finished, they don't have to be finished. You can slice and dice this content up. You can glue it all together. You can create amazing testimonial videos. You can create loads of fantastic show reels. And once that content's on video, I just think you can do so much more with it, and you can play around with it and have a bit of fun.
that right there is the promo from my episode as well, because I think we believe so much in the whole power of repurposing the same content. You could do so many things. After we finish this conversation, I think we're going to slice and dice this conversation into mini clips, and we're going to put out like these audio episodes on Spotify. You'll have a blog coming out. We'll have a snippet of this in our e-magazine, which is Mad Over Videos Buzz, that is going to come out next month. Again, the power of repurposing content is something which is underrated heavily, and I think there's so much more that you can unlock from what you already have instead of running behind new things.
100%, absolutely. I think that it's just about being creative, isn't it? It's just thinking of, if you're able to catch fantastic content over a webinar or a recorded event that you're doing virtually, it's don't keep it to yourself. Like, get that content further out there, get more people to engage with it. Definitely enabling people to find out about your company, find out about your brand. And if you are able to have a compilation or something that showcases a campaign with multiple different, snippets from it, why not? I think it's a great way to repurpose content. And that is sort of one of the secrets to, being a successful marketer, is knowing when you can take that content and bring it to life across other channels, and not being just overly focused on this. Okay, this content's just for social and this is just for that. Think about it across, like, how could this come to life across an event? How could this come to life in an article or an ebook? Or how could this come to life, just by having, virtual get together, a round table? You can still do those things. So it is just about thinking outside the box sometimes, and making sure that once it's done once, it can still come to life multiple other ways, and just, have fun with it.
Absolutely. I think thank you for reinstating our belief in the whole idea of repurposing. I think we've been proponents of this idea ever since we started the podcast. As I told, we've always ensured that we put out the same content out in different formats so that it reaches the relevant audience. I think everybody out there consumes content in various ways, and like, somebody might like to watch this entire conversation, but somebody out there would also want to just hear a small snippet. And if that serves that purpose, I think nothing better than that. The next thing I really want to talk about here is putting out customer story. How important is that? Because this is naturally associated with social proof. I think we as humans, when we make a purchase decision, whether it is in a shopping center or whether it is in the software world, we also want to ensure that we hear reviews, we sort of see that somebody else who has used that particular product can possibly vouch for that product or service, and that makes our purchase decision or a buying decision so much more easier. So how important uh, do you think is putting out customer stories, and how can video like take this to the next level?
Yeah, I think if you're creating a case study or success story with your customers, it's fantastic to get that, obviously, in the first place, for them to say yes, and for you to be able. So when you just have the challenge, solution, result. Sorry, did I black out there for a second? Like, my Wi-Fi might be a bit sketchy.
A tiny bit, but that's okay. You can maybe start off from the previous sentence.
Yeah, no worries. So I was just saying that really it's when it's just text, you are a little bit limited, and it can just not be as engaging. So if you are able to use your customer's voice in video form, that is such a powerful way for you to be able to quickly and effectively explain why you have been a great solution for this customer, and what kind of impact you have made, for them to be able to say it themselves. So I just think that, putting the customer into a video for them to talk about how great your product is or anything like that, it's just it's a more interesting way, basically. It's a much more interesting way than just in text. And this is something I've been quite passionate about throughout my career. We did it at Facebook, and we do it at UserTesting, and we've got some great customers. And we want to bring that to life in quite cinematic way and quite an amazing way, and being able to put the spotlight onto our customers and who use the platform, and being able to talk about all the great things that they do, because ultimately they're using video to get closer to their customers, and they're able to explain that through power of video. So it's it's just a fantastic way to bring it all to life. The text is great. Getting a success story of any kind is always a massive win for an organization, but it's even bigger if you can get a beautiful video case study created.
Talking about a beautiful video case study, I'd like to play one of the video case studies that you all produced. And who better than a brand like Microsoft? There's so much value when it comes out of the mouth of a person who or a brand who really that you can relate to, because everybody knows Microsoft. It becomes so much more easier if Microsoft uses user testing. I would also like to try this product. So I like to play the video. Maybe it's a slightly longer video. I might have to cut it short in the middle of it, but then I'd like to play it for everybody.
If you're not learning from your customers, you're not learning. If you are not learning from your customers, I assure you, you are not making the right decisions. My name is Tracy Kraft, and I'm the Brand Content Studio Manager in Cloud Marketing at Microsoft. At every single point in the journey, people should be getting feedback from their customers.
If you're not learning from your customers, then you're probably not going to make the product that meets their needs. My name is Tom LaRusso, and I'm a Principal User Research Manager at Xbox. We view user research as a way to really build confidence throughout the product development cycle.
We work with product marketers, we work with integrated marketers, we work with engineers. Everybody has a different opinion. What is the way that we can fine-tune the words that we are using so that we can connect on an emotional level with our audience? And that is a huge, huge challenge for us.
Things are moving very quickly. If we want to interview folks, if we want to get their opinions on what they're doing right now, if we want to test something that is kind of out in the wild, maybe like a website or something else, we can get that feedback within a couple of hours and at scale.
Once we started to really build our testing muscle, it really became part of our DNA. Every single test builds on the others, and the learnings continue to compound, and we get smarter and smarter and smarter every single day.
We are shipping on monthly cadences where that feedback iteration loop has to be come in a week or two. If we didn't have user testing, we would not be able to scale as quickly as we do.
It's part of our experimentation, learning, and growing ecosystem, and it plays a really critical role in giving us pieces of that puzzle that we don't get elsewhere.
Yeah. I think beautifully done. First of all, congratulations for having put together such a beautiful piece of communication. Technically, also like getting the right people sort of who've used the product and can vouch for the offerings. And of course, the way it was structured in terms of how they defined their own challenges, what kind of solution that user testing provided to their challenge. And then I'm sure we had to cut the video short, but then beautifully that the results that came out of the particular solution implementation was so beautifully narrated, and something that I would love to consume over reading a large case study in text, right?
Yeah, definitely. Our customer marketing team produced this, and I think that it's great because it shows you not just the customer in terms of the brand name, but it shows you the actual customer, and that's bringing the human element to it and showing what they're doing, how they're using it, and using their own voice to communicate the value. And I think that's the secret: is there's only so far you're going to get if you keep shouting about how great your product is and how great your service is. But if you have an amazing customer who happens to work for a great brand, then it is an effective way to have something like that created, because that is talking to the value of user testing, of what it means to Microsoft. But you're hearing directly from the people that are working so hard at Microsoft to be closer to their customers and how they're conveying the importance of testing. And I think that when you can see it from their perspective. You know, if you are someone within the research world who's thinking about, okay, I need to up our game with qualitative testing, qualitative insights, and you're looking at solutions, if you see a video like that, it's going to resonate faster with you if you see somebody kind of similar to your role and can see that they're having success with the product. So I do believe in bringing videos into success stories just to, give them more depth, give them more engagement, and again, it always comes back to that emotional reaction. Are people going to enjoy that more than they're just going to enjoy, a simple text case study? So, I do believe that it's just a much more powerful way to hit the mark a lot faster.
Absolutely. Another case study that I want to talk about is, again, it's not from user testing, it's one from your previous roles, that is at Facebook. Again, we all know Facebook invests so much in video. Video has been such an important part of the product itself. They've done so much around building the whole watch function and things like that. But then again, this is about one of their customers or their partners when it came to the app developers, right? I'm talking about gaming in particular, and how one of their customers, that is Colibri Games, doubled their revenue when it came to using video ads in their games. I'd like to play the case study, and maybe you can tell me a little bit more about your perspective on the campaign.
Colibri Games is a game studio based in Berlin. The mission of our company is to make the best idle games possible. So we want to be the #1 player-driven idle games developer in the world.
For us, Audience Network has the highest purchase ROAS compared to the other placements. And right now we're using playable ads, which have a 2 times higher conversion rate in the Audience Network, which in average means lower CPIs for us.
The core of our optimization strategy has always been CPM targets. We had enormous success placing Audience Network at the top of the waterfall with an extremely aggressive CPM price target. And from there, we were able to dictate the rest of our optimization strategy. Our customers can't get enough of rewarded video ads. They love the rewards, and we know from the performance of the ads that they're resonating extremely well with the players. Facebook's Audience Network has been instrumental in growing our revenue and growing our business. Since implementing
I worked on this campaign, so I helped deliver this specific video, and I think it's similar again to what we do at user testing with video and bring our customers into that. And the great thing is when you're showcasing your actual customers, that they're more willing to share the content. They're definitely more willing to share the story about how they're working with you. So that was something that I loved working on when I was at Facebook Audience Network, and it was just brilliant to showcase of how we were helping a gaming company increase their ad revenue through rewarded video.
Right. And again, I'm not just about talking about the whole idea of using video to put out the customer stories, but the whole power of videos also comes out here, because we also have seen banner ads, right? And how the return on video ads is so much more than just a banner ad. So it just again comes down to the whole power of video, because video is something that is far better than the other medium of communication. Again, even in advertising, it's far better to sort of put out your communication through this medium rather than showing banner ads.
Yes, this is a great example. The actual case study was about the success that Colibri Games was having with rewarded video, and it doubled their ad revenue just for having gamers watching an ad and being able to reward them with points in the game. And that was something that was becoming quite big at Facebook Audience Network when I was there, and something that a lot of the gaming organizations were wanting to adopt, because it was such a powerful way to keep users engaged in the games themselves and not be put off by watching video ads. They were actually rewarded by watching the video ads. So I think that it shows just how the change of advertising and how many people now want to use video. It's from a gaming organization to a news publisher, like people know that using that level of video is going to engage people to keep watching and keep going. And I just think it's a nice way to not let people can get annoyed, obviously through advertising and all that sort of stuff. But if you've got something that's a bit more interactive and people know that they're going to get a reward for watching something, then I think that's a fantastic way to also look at your advertising strategy. We work with we're looking at a company called Goodloop, who actually help that when you're watching an advert, and if you watch till the end, you can actually choose a charity to donate to. Like that sort of engagement by someone watching a video ad, and by the end of it, they can actually donate to a charity. That's fantastic. That's what we all want. It'd be great if advertising just became a way to help different charities. So thinking about other ways to engage the audience and more than just what goes beyond the video output, but how can people then engage with the content?
Yeah, I love the use case that you just mentioned. I think I'm so happy to learn about this because again, something that really is such a wonderful thing to do. Again, like you sort of also reaching out to your brand audience, etc. But then also at the same time, you're helping somebody do a good cause, right? At the end of the day, you're sort of contributing to a good deed, and it's like it's wonderful. I would love to check them out and possibly even maybe do a spotlight. I think about this initiative. If you could connect us to somebody at that organization, we'd love to do a small spotlight on this initiative that is that they are doing. So with that, my next question to you is again, I hope I'm not being controversial when I say that a lot of C-level executives or like even founders for that matter, like do not have a lot of belief in video marketing, and like especially CXOs who are sort of not confident in diverting budgets to such initiatives. I think user testing has shown the way when it comes to like their belief, putting their money where they believe in. And I want to know, because I think because of pandemic, you would have seen your spending patterns change. But then now that we are bouncing back from these adversities, how do you see like your strategies shape up in the future? Are you going to be again focused more on creating more video content, or are you going to be like playing it conservatively? What do you think the future holds for user testing?
Well, I think that we see the value in the video. We definitely do, and I would be very surprised if anyone from our leadership team didn't say the same. They definitely can see the impact it can make. And of course, like there's certain things that if you're going to do something well, you have got to think about the investment, and obviously the investment is one part of it. What's your return on that? So in terms of putting something out there that's maybe a little bit, scrappy and not as polished compared to maybe just investing a little bit more into something that looks fantastic. I think our leadership team, especially in our marketing team, they want to see quality. They want to see quality outputs. And if that means doing a little bit less, just to make sure that we have something that is top quality when it comes to something like our Microsoft case study, things like that, but we want to have the best output possible, because I think it's all about brand reputation, like brand association. And if you see things that are just not necessarily of the high production quality for something like that, compared to obviously scrappy kind of videos and webinars and putting things like that's always going to be the case while we're in this situation where we can't be together in person. But I think that you've also got to think to yourself, well, what's going to stay online forever? What are people going to be looking at for years to come? And if this is something that I'm going to have to invest this little bit of money in, but I'm going to be able to have something really high quality I can be proud of on my website, be able to share with people, my client will also be proud to share with their network, I think it comes down to that. So it's the return on what you're going to get. And I think that the fact is video is not going anywhere. It's just going to become more competitive. And the more competitive it is and the more videos are out there, the more that you've got to stand out. So how do you stand out? You've got to get the best possible production that you can if you're creating something along those lines. And, think about like the world of TikTok. Like you have now got this massive platform that is dedicated to video advertising, and brands are now thinking, how do I compete? Now everyone's on there trying to make 1 minute videos. How do you stand out? You have got to think outside the box. And sometimes, yes, that means that you may have to invest a little bit of the budget into that. But it just comes down to what do you want to get of it and what are you going to be proud of?
Absolutely. I love the fact that you mentioned the trade-off between budgets and the brand reputation, because everything aside, your reputation is at stake. It's your brand that's going to stay on that video, and whatever is there on the internet is going to be there forever. So even if you plan to delete it, somebody else would have like uploaded it somewhere, and again you'll come up with these pieces once in a while. Again, like you said, you have to do the other scrappy videos, etc. Again, you have to sort of classify and get your efforts into different production quality and budget ranges. But then when it comes to top-notch production, again, it adds so much more value to the brand reputation. And I think one should not compromise on that. So thank you so much for again saying this loud. So with that, I also want to talk about like other marketers or other people that you really admire. I think we spent so much time on talking about your work and the brand that you represent, but I also like to use this time to give shout out to the people that you admire, people that you follow, and maybe that could give us an insight into maybe their work, and maybe also uh, people who are watching can possibly learn from them. So this is the right time to do those shout outs.
Sure. I mean, as a B2B marketer, I think that Chris Walker, CEO of Refine Labs, does a fantastic job in engaging people on LinkedIn with videos. Very simple, very much just him talking to microphones and spelling it out there. But again, he's done a fantastic example of slicing and dicing specific content, adding subtitles, creating that extra level of engagement. I think he's definitely someone that I've enjoyed watching during the pandemic. He's said it like it is, basically, which is great. And I think that James Dawkins is a CX influencer. He's also been very creative of how he sets up his cameras like during interviews. So I actually interviewed him, and he filmed himself from a different angle answering that, and he was able to take that content and glue it together. So he's been named the #1 CX influencer in the UK before, and he's just a really lively, engaging character to see on video. And then marketers that just continue to create fantastic campaigns. Natalie Rain is the head of go-to-market for YouTube Premium. She is constantly doing outstanding work, across video. So, during the launch of YouTube Music and those things, like when I worked at YouTube, I worked alongside her, and she's definitely one of the most creative marketers I've had the pleasure of working with before. So yes, I think it's just about folk that kind of stand out. We see a lot on social channels right now, but there's some people that you can find yourself going back to, and you find if you end up watching more than 30 seconds of a video, you probably know that video has actually affected you in some way and made you want to watch a little bit more.
Absolutely. Coming to the point that people love watching these videos more, I wish this conversation did not come to an end. We could get and talk a little more about your thoughts about your campaigns, and I hope if not on the podcast, we can continue to talk offline about your work, and possibly even get to collaborate on some of your campaigns that you're doing at UserTesting. With that said, I'd like to bring this conversation to an end and like to thank you so much for taking time out and joining us on the Madwar Videos podcast. I hope you had a great time as well.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. So we bring this episode to an end. And for everybody else who might be watching this, we'd also like to announce that Guch has also come up with a product called Final. This is a product that helps you get real-time feedback from all your stakeholders, from different market, like from your teams, from your vendors, etc., on one single platform. You can in one click you can upload your video, and you get timestamp based feedback right in that window, so you don't have to like collate different feedback coming in from different sources. So this product that we've launched is going out on producthunt.com tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. IST, which is the GMT start of the day. So please check us out on Product Hunt. The product name is Final by Guch. With that said, we hope to catch you back on the next episode with another interesting guest. Till then, see you. Bye.
Thank you.